What are we looking for? Dogs.
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Bird, and we back on Bird's Eye View with it. Like always, appreciate the love and support. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. Stop what you're doing. Smash the like button, smash subscribe button, hop in the comment section, comment whatever you want. Of course, I'm dropping daily bangers day by day. You know we got news of the day coming out of Colorado, and we're going to jump right into it, dog. So, of course, we back with another recap with this Colorado football program. As always, shout out Well Off Media, Reach the People Media for providing us this phenomenal footage each and every day, dog. Of course, we're coming off our 31-28 loss to the Kansas State Wildcats. As we all know, it was a tough loss. Momentum was shifting up and down throughout the game. We know we lost some key players as well, man. Prayers up to Omarion Miller. Looks like he's going to be done for the season. Of course, he was having an unreal performance, man. He is an absolute dog. He will be wide receiver one for us next year, in my opinion. He is an unreal football player, man. And when he gets the opportunity to step on the field, he just does what he needs to do. So prayers out to Omarion Miller. Of course, we lost Travis Hunter and Jimmy Horn Jr. for the entire second half as well. I think Terrell Timmons Jr. also got nicked up. So prayers out to all of our Colorado Buffaloes that's dealing with any type of injuries right now. We're wishing for speedy recoveries. Hopefully we're able to get Trav and Jimmy Horn back on the field along with Terrell Timmons Jr. for our next week matchup with the Arizona Wildcats. But as far as the matchup with the Kansas State Wildcats, a game that I was able to attend. Shout out to everyone who joined the live. At one point, we had over 3,000 people in the live. Right now, we have like 51,000 views on that live, man. I appreciate you guys. Like as always, man, my channel is nothing without the support of Buff Nation. So I definitely appreciate you guys. I can't wait to get back out to Boulder. I will be out for another game or two as well, likely multiple games, honestly. But let's kind of get into this Kansas State recap. Of course, I put out the keys to victory video for our offense. I mentioned that we needed to start fast, continue the momentum on the ground, protect Shedeur Sanders, limit the self-inflicted wounds, stay hot through the air. Now, as far as starting fast, of course, I know we went 3 and out our first drive. We really wasn't clicking offensively on our first drive, but then we did bounce back. We had a 51-yard touchdown drive capped off by a 25-yard reception by LaJohntay Wester. He was able to find pay dirt. So even though we didn't score on the first drive like I wanted us to, we still bounced back, made some adjustments, and scored on the second drive. So we still pretty much started fast. Now, when it came to keeping up the momentum on the ground game, we didn't really do that. We didn't really have a ground attack all night. Michael Welch, he didn't even get a carry. Dylan Hayden, he had 7 carries for 11 yards. Isaiah Gustav had 3 carries for 10 yards. Of course, he did have a touchdown, so I wanted our offense to continue to get rushing touchdowns. We were able to do that. Now, when you look at the box score, of course, we finished with negative 29 rushing yards. Of course, Shedeur had negative 50 sack yards, so obviously that goes against your rushing yards. But even when you take out the sack yardage, we only had 45 yards rushing on the night. Shedeur had the longest rush, which was 13 yards. Of course, that's just not going to get it done. Now, when it comes to protecting Shedeur Sanders, we did give up 6 sacks, but honestly, they all weren't on our offensive line. There were times where Shedeur needed to throw the ball away. There were times where he held the ball a little bit too long when he needed to step up in the pocket. So those 6 sacks, honestly, weren't on our offensive line. If you actually look at the PFF offensive line grades, we were good across the board. When you look at pass blocking, Seat led us at 87.7, which is elite. 4 out of our 5 graded over 70, which is really good. Our average was 74.48, so that's actually a really good average. I'm not mad at the way our offensive line played when it comes to protecting the quarterback and pass blocking. They really didn't play bad at all. Now, when I said limit the self-inflicted wounds, we did that. We only had 5 penalties for 20 yards. It was actually a pretty clean game when you look at it penalty-wise, because K-State, they only had 5 penalties for 19 yards, man. So, I mean, it was only 10 penalties for 39 yards combined for the whole game. And each team only had 1 turnover. Of course, we threw a pick. They threw a pick. So it was pretty clean game. We didn't have too many self-inflicted wounds. I will say the turnover, the interception that we did have, that Shedeur overthrew Draylon, that hurt because we were driving to score. So that hurt us more than anything. But I mean, you know what I'm saying, we ended up getting it back because the interception that they threw on 4th down, I believe at like the 30-yard line, where they were kind of going back and forth. I know they called a timeout to decide if they were going to kick it or not. They ended up coming back. And then, of course, they went for, I believe it was 4th and 6 they went for it. And, of course, the ball was tipped up. Colton Hood got the interception and almost took it to the crib. So, I mean, you know, it kind of balanced itself out. Now, I also mentioned that we had to stay hot through the air. And obviously we did that. Shedeur was 34 of 40. I believe at one point in time he had like 16 straight completions. He had 388 yards and 3 touchdowns. Of course, Omarion Miller, again, prayers up for O. He had 8 catches for 145 yards. I believe he was targeted 8 times, caught all of his passes. He was elite. He was elite Saturday night, dog. Shep had another good performance, man. 5 catches for 83 yards. He was able to find the box again with another touchdown. Again, LeJontay Wester, he went 5 for 58 with 2 touchdowns. He just continues to find the end zone, dog. Draylon Miller, of course, solid night, 5 catches. He had 27 yards. Obviously, Travis and Jimmy, they were hurt for most of this contest. Trav finished with 3 catches for 26 yards, and Jimmy had 3 catches for 20 yards. Again, prayers up to all of our Colorado Buffaloes that are dealing with injuries at the moment. Now, let's take a look at our defense. Of course, the keys to victory for the defense, the main thing was controlling Avery Johnson's legs, and we basically did that. He had 7 carries for negative 15 yards. Of course, when you factor in the sack yardage, he was sacked 4 times by our defense. Now, if you take out the sack yardage, he was 7 for 21. He only averaged 3 yards a carry. So we definitely control Avery Johnson's legs for sure. Now, on defense, I mentioned that we needed to continue our streak of not allowing a 100-yard rusher or a 100-yard receiver. Well, of course, we ended up giving up a 100-yard rusher and a 100-yard receiver for the first time this year. Giddens, who was phenomenal. Of course, I mentioned him in our Keys to Victory video. Giddens was unreal. He went for 182 yards. And then Jace Brown, I mentioned him in the Keys to Victory video as well, being their most explosive athlete on the outside. And of course, he went for 6 catches for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. So we ended up losing our streak when it comes to 100-yard rusher, 100-yard receiver. Those 2 young men, Jace Brown and Giddens, they were phenomenal all Saturday night. I mentioned that we need to create a turnover or 2, and of course we did that. Colton Hood, it was a key moment in that football game. Honestly, man, the stadium was going crazy. Once we got that interception, of course, Colton caught that 59-yard interception and we returned it. Almost was a house call. Honestly, he tripped. If he didn't trip, it was a house call, man. Now, obviously, we ended up scoring a few plays later, which I knew we were going to do. We had all the momentum at that point, and this stadium was rocking. Once we scored the touchdown, I mean rocking. I'm going crazy, losing my mind. And I honestly thought that was the ball game there, because when I said momentum was on our side, I honestly thought that was the ball game once we made those plays. So I also said that we needed to tackle well. Now, we didn't really do that. We missed 17 tackles. Giddens maneuvered through tackles all night. Now, Cam and DJ McKinney, they were our 2 best tackling players Saturday night. They both had 8 tackles, and neither one of them missed a tackle at all either. I also mentioned that our edges needed to stay disciplined and continue to play well. We limited Avery Johnson. Like I said, he wasn't able to escape the pocket. The RPOs they didn't really hurt us. Honestly, they hurt us by doing things that they didn't do all year. I mean, they really didn't take the top off of defense much all year. They really wasn't good when completing passes 20-plus yards down the field. So they actually beat us doing things that they honestly weren't good at all year. Kudos to them, man. They made the adjustments and they made the plays when they needed to. BJ Green, of course, had 2 sacks. Tajay McCoy had a sack as well, too. So our edges pretty much, kind of did what we needed them to do in order for us to get the job done. Now, when we look at our top 10 players when it comes to PFFs, right, our top 10 PFF grades, of course, we're going to start number 1 with Omarion Miller. Like I said, he was elite Saturday night. He was ranked 89.0. Of course, he led our team. He was the only one that was in the 80s, almost was in the 90s. Again, 8 catches for 145 yards. His longest was for 51 yards. Again, prayers out to O. We're looking for you to come back, dog. We can't wait for you to be able to come back and play football for this Colorado football program again next season. In my opinion, like I said, he will be wide receiver 1. He has the talent, the type of talent to have a 1,000-yard year, 10-plus touchdowns. He's that good of a player, dog. Omarion Miller is a pro. Can't wait to see you suit up back in black and gold next season. Let's keep it rolling, dog. Shedeur Sanders at number 2, 79.1. Again, he was 34 for 40, 3 touchdowns. He also had our longest rush of the game. Again, at one point, I believe he had like 16 straight completions, which I believe is a Colorado record. Shedeur was solid all night. Let's keep it rolling. Our highest graded defensive player, shout out to Colton Hood, 76.4. Of course, he filled in for Trav and did a phenomenal job. Again, our highest graded defensive player, didn't give up 1 catch. He had an interception as well. He graded out 72 or higher in run defense, tackling, and in coverage. He graded the highest on our team in run defense and coverage, dog. Kudos again to Colton Hood. You stepped up when your time was called, and I promise you, you're going to see more time on the field, dog. You deserve it. Let's keep it rolling, dog. Will Shepard falls in at number 4, 70.9. Again, he had 5 catches for 83 yards and 1 touchdown. I know he had that 1 drop, but honestly, that was due to the lights. And when I was at the game, I was telling guys that was like, I could sit around me in the section. I was like, he lost that in the light. You could just tell, in my opinion, I could see it immediately by the way that he was trying to catch the ball. It was almost like he was fighting. trying to catch it. And he's wide open. He was fighting the football trying to catch it because he couldn't see it. He lost it in the lights. And then he ended up, of course, confirming that on the well-off media video. But he still had a great performance. Again, 5 for 83 with 1 touchdown. His longest catch was for 25 yards. Shout out to Will Shepherd, dog. Let's keep rolling. Here at number 5, Hank Zelinskis. He was our highest graded offensive lineman at 70.0. He was the best run block graded offensive lineman, and he was second best with pass blocking. Hank Zelinskis, again, he is a really good player for us. He's been solid all year, and of course, we need him to continue his progression to being a good football player. Let's keep it rolling. Jordan Seaton at 69.4. He was our highest graded pass blocking grade, 87.7, which is elite, dog. I mean, Jordan Seaton has done everything we needed a true freshman left tackle to do, and he continues to grow. I mean, and it's going to be fun watching him get better and better, dog. Can you imagine Jordan Seaton when he's a junior in 2 years? I mean, you're talking about first round type talent. Jordan Seaton, he's got it, dog. Didn't give up any sacks, only allowed 2 pressures and 49 opportunities. Let's keep it rolling. Shane Coates, 67.6. He was our second highest graded defensive player. He was the highest graded defensive lineman. Basically controlled the B gap all night. His run defensive grade was solid, and he led our defense in assisted tackles with 3. Shane Coates continues to play good. Let's keep rolling. Chidozie Nwankwu, 67.5. His run defensive grade was 3rd highest. He had 2 tackles as well. Block Bully keeps doing what we need him to do. We just need him to continue to stay healthy, man, and Block Bully's going to have a really good year. LeJontay Wester, 66.8. Again, he had 5 catches for 58 yards, 2 touchdowns. He averaged 11.6 yards per catch. He had the most yak yards per reception Saturday night with 9.4. And, of course, LeJontay now has scored in 5 straight games, dog. That was his 2nd game of the year where he had 2 touchdowns. He now leads the team with 7 touchdowns on the year. He just finds the end zone. Like I said, this is his 5th straight game with a touchdown. The only game that he didn't score in all year was the first game of the year against North Dakota State. He scored in every game since then. We got to continue to find a way to get this young man the ball in space because, as you were able to see, he has the ability to find the end zone. He's going to score a lot more touchdowns for us this year. Last but certainly not least, rounding out the top 10 PFF grades for that Kansas State matchup was B.J. Green at 66.7. He had the highest pass rushing grade. He finished with 2 sacks. He now leads our team with 6 tackles for loss. Shout out to his mom, man. I was able to talk with her pregame while I was on live, and she said it. She was like, he getting 2 sacks tonight. She said that pregame after the buff walk, and I was able to see her after the game, and she said, I told you, and I was like, you did. You said he was going to get 2 sacks, and your son went out there and got the job done, man. Kudos to B.J. Green. Again, like I said, he now leads our team in tackles for loss with 6. He is on pace now to have double-digit tackles for loss this season, and that's going to be a really solid year for that young man. So, of course, all in all, we didn't get the result that we ended up wanting to have. Of course, we lost that football game 31-28, but when you look at it, man, there was still a good representation of our football team. I mean, this was the type of game where when you lose your best player, who's actually 2 players, so you lose your best wide receiver and your best corner for the whole second half. And, you lose Jimmy Horn, who's, top 3 wide receiver on the team right now. So when you lose your 2 of your top wide receivers and your best corner for a whole half, playing against a team that's top 20 in the nation, and you're still able to battle and put yourself in a position to win that ball game. I mean, we're up 28-24. Right? We're up 28-24 with 2 minutes left in that ball game, man. And I honestly thought we was going to win that game. I did not think our defense was going to give up that touchdown, especially that fast. I mean, they scored like under a minute. They scored 3 plays because they had to play. The first play was the ball that they threw down the field where DJ McKinney was on the coverage and the receiver wasn't able to haul in and grab it. Kind of went off his fingertips a little bit. And then they came right back to that same play, that wheel route that they ran at 31. That was the same play that they had ran previously in the 3rd quarter when he dropped it. And I was screaming that they coming back to that. They're going to come back to that at some point. And they did. They came back to it on that last drive that they got. And he ended up making the play. He ended up catching it at that point. And then, of course, that was a big play there to get them to about midfield. And then they came right back after that with the play to Jace Brown, where Preston Hodge was on the coverage, got the PI call. He was still able to make the play and find Pater and get in the end zone. And they took the lead. I mean, it was just crazy because our energy was through the roof. Like, I mean, once we got that interception and we scored, I was like, man, one stop in the game is ours. And, man, we ended up squeaking out with a win, even though we end up losing a lot of our top guys. But of course, it didn't go down that way, man. You gotta give kudos to Kansas State, man. They made plays. They did things that they weren't doing all season, and they were able to execute them. And you just got to tip your cap. You got to think, man, those guys on scholarship too, right? And that's a top 20 team in the nation, right? There's no excuses at the end of the day. I'm not pointing fingers and saying, oh, because we had injuries that we lost that game, because that's a part of football, right? I mean, injuries happen, but you know, at the end of the day, man, I mean, it's real. You think if we had Travis Hunter for that ball game, do we win it? I'd probably say yeah. I'd probably say. I mean, I don't think a lot of things happen in the second half when it comes to giving up plays over the top. If we had Travis Hunter in that football game, and who knows? But at the end of the day, man, football is a next man up game. That's pretty much sports in general, especially in football, with how violent the sport is, and guys can go down in any given play. It's next man up, man. And we still have a really talented wide receiving core. Of course, I know we lost Omarion Miller. Let's see what the status for Travis Hunter will be next week. But we still got a really talented wide receiver core, and some guys are going to have to step up and make plays, and we have the athletes to do so. Even if Travis not able to play wide receiver next week, I'm not sure, if they're going to have him on like a pitch count type of deal. But we're going to have to figure out T-Mac, because, of course, we're about to go up against the best wide receiver we'll likely see all season in T-Mac when we play Arizona. So we're going to definitely have to figure him out for sure, and we'll love to at least have Trav on the defensive side of the ball next week if possible. But if he's healthy, then we're gonna let Trav be Trav. I know he wanted to come back in the game for sure. He put his gloves back on. He had his helmet. I know he wanted to come back in, but of course it's a long season. But not gonna keep it long. Just want to bring you guys another phenomenal update. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. You know what time it is, dog. Bird's Eye View, man.